Hari Om, Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Sir has followed this methodology in Param Vedanta, where he makes us present verses, makes us present them again and once again. So this way of reading, revising, going about again, the reason is there in the Shanti part of this very Kathopanishad. So in the third line it says Tejasvina Adithamastu and Meda Shakti, Pujya Swami Paramarthananda ji explains as being a combination of Grahana and Dharana Shakti. When we read the first time, we grasp it, and then there is some retention. When this happens repeatedly, then it is available to us. As Sir said, this is net practice. Actual practical application is going to be tomorrow onwards, going forever. So with the intention, at the cost of repetition, I would like to just cover all the Vallis since we are beginning a new day. Sada Shiva Samarabham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Just as the Bhagavad Gita starts with the context of the Mahabharata war, we see this Upanishad starting with the context of the story between a father and a son, which involved the Visvajit Yaga, Dakshinas were given, and we know the story how Nachiketas ends up in Yamaloka, and then we saw in the first Valli discussion about the first and the second boon. Most would have Artha Kama as Purushartha. Through the first and second boon, we can view Dharma as being a Purushartha. Then the first two boons were very easily granted by Yamadharmaraja. Then we see towards the end of the first Valli that the third boon concerned Moksha Purushartha. While Artha, Kama and Dharma can be easily given, Dharma Purushartha was fulfilled easily. Moksha Purushartha, Yamadharmaraja is reluctant to bestow. So it is important to know why this is so. So if it is given to a person who is not prepared, who does not have the prerequisite qualifications, then this boon will not bless the person. This was the only intention of Lord Yama not giving this teaching to Nachiketas, because he was not sure whether he was a fit receptacle to take to the third boon. So therefore, a fit receptacle means sadhana chatushtaya sampatti. So Lord Yama would have to check whether Viveka, Vairagyam, Muktivra, Mokshutvam and Samadhi Shatta Sampatti are there. So we saw in the first Valli these things being checked. There was a discouragement test to check Tivra Mokshutvam, which he passed. There was a temptation test to test Vairagyam, which also he passed. He also tests the Viveka by understanding the reasons for Vairagyam, and those reasons showed Yamadharmaraja that he has Viveka. So he is very happy, excited, and then the second Valli opens with Lord Yama being in a hyperbole, extolling the glories of the student, the Sishya and Brahma Vidya itself. As a part of Stuti of the Sishya, we get this beautiful segment where Karma Marga and Jnana Marga were discussed. We come to know details about what is Shreyas and Preyas very clearly. We also saw Acharya being described as Ananyaha, for whom the knowledge of Brahman is biographical. There is no difference between what he teaches and what he is. Nachiketas is not impressed with all this. He is restless and he asks the question once again, the third boon, rephrased here with that famous mantra Anyatra Dharma, what we have seen already. this teaching, although he is now having all the fit qualifications, Yamadharma Raja is still whether Nachiketas will understand it or not. So therefore he comes up with the Omkara Upasana. Etan Shreshtam was the mantra there. And having given the Omkara Upasana, now we have a situation like the 11th verse of the second chapter in Gita. The student is fit, therefore now the scene is set for the teaching. So, end of the second Valli, Atma Lakshana is presented by Yamadharma Raja, just as the teaching is in the second chapter, 11th to 25th verses of the Bhagavad Gita. More or less similar Lakshana of Atma is explained. The first one is Atma Vipaschit, which is of the nature of consciousness. Then we saw second Nirvikara, third Karta, fourth Bhokta, fifth Sarva Adhishtanam, Sarvadharam, and sixth is Durvijneyam. I want to spend some time on this Durvijneyam. It is difficult to understand because this is repeated no less than 3 times across Kathopanishad. So we know that there is original consciousness. We all are in our true nature original consciousness. Yet because of this original consciousness obtaining in this body and mind complex, there is Anyonya Adhyasa. And this is what was explained as Durvijneyam there, if you remember, as Samanya and Vishesha Chaitanya. So we'll come to this part again in the present Valli, in the verses later in the 5th Valli. The 7th Lakshana was Sarvagatam and 8th is Srishti Sthiti Laya Karanam. So thus by the end of the second Valli, Lord Yama has given Atma Lakshana. And yet it is difficult for Nachiketas and so also for all of us to comprehend suddenly something which is not tangible and told to us that it is very real and whatever is around me is so tangible and that is told as not being an existential fact. So therefore the journey continues. Then we come to the third Valli, and in the third Valli the mantras start with what is a Jivatma. And it is shown that Jivatma is a reflection in the mind as RC. And there the discussion is how to make this Jivatma attain to that Atma Lakshanam which was described in the end of the second Valli. And for this Yamadharma Raja presents certain sadhanas to make all of us Jivatmas fit to be able to understand the Lakshanas in the second Valli. That he does so by telling that if the vehicle is fit, you can attain to the ultimate journey, which is Parama Purushartha. And to make the vehicle fit, the metaphor was Ratha Kalpana, which we saw yesterday. There 5 sadhanas were maintained, which each one of us need to have to take to this journey. The first one was Arogyam, the second one was Shama, then Dhamma, then Viveka and Arjava. Arjavam is all these should be aligned together, then only this journey will culminate. It was pointed out at the end of the Rathakalpana section that the goal that you are looking is Vishnu Padam Paramam. That ultimate goal is in the form of one all-pervading, formless consciousness. Immediately for each of us now, what I am seeking, being all-pervading, is already there at this time and where I stand. So the question comes, how did I miss that which is already there within me, around me, at this time? So the reasoning given in the third Valli is that we are always focused on the Panchakoshas. We are lost in the Panchakoshas. So we have missed this touch, the blessing of Atma, which is there on me at this time as I stand here. And so in the third Valli, the Panchakosha Viveka was presented as a method to gradually go from what I am always so preoccupied. I am more preoccupied with Annamaya, then I am less on Pranamaya, less on Manomaya, but still I miss the subtle Atma which is there at this very time where I stand as my core personality. So To do Panchakosha Viveka, Adhyaya, Sukshmaya, Buddhi, these are the two qualities which were presented in the third Valli. To have a sharp intellect, to avoid Bhirmukhatvam, and also to perceive the subtle Atma. The journey then moves on to the fourth Valli, which we saw yesterday. And this Bhirmukhatvam, that is natural extrovertedness, is a big weakness for all of the seekers. And there it was shown that Viveka Janya Vairagyam, this is the sadhana that we need to be able to take to the Jnana Yoga or Brahma Vidya. These Vallis are mostly presented as three sections: sadhanas, which make me fit from Atma Vidya itself, and Atma Vidya Phalam. So the Atma Vidya part in the fourth Valli, as we saw yesterday, comprised mainly of three prakriyas. The first one was Drikdrishya Prakriya. Basically, I am of the nature of consciousness. I experience many things, but I am distinct from them. That was the teaching. And then the next Prakriya was Avastatraya Viveka. I experience the three states through my day, through my week, through my life, yet I am distinct from them. They come, they go. And elaborate discussion on Sarvatma Bhava. The previous two Prakriyas still might leave two entities. That is, I am not what I experience. So there might still remain two things, what I experience and me. What this third Prakriya does is, it resolves and leaves only one reality. So we saw that Vyashti and Samashti were matter. Each of these were then further divided based on the evolution from causal status to intermediate to the final. So therefore, we have three stages in evolution in Srishti, three stages of evolution in Samashti. And it was shown that each of them are endowed with an ability to reflect the original consciousness, which is always there at all times. So therefore, there were 6 RCs. And through this teaching, it was shown that all of them exist because of the blessing of the OC, or the original consciousness, or Atma. Without them, they don't have their own independent existence. Therefore, original consciousness, or Atma alone is. So therefore, by the end of this discussion, Advaitam is established. And then we saw some Jivatma, Paramatma, Aikya verses. Jivatma was described as Angushta Matra. And then in the same verse, it was shown that Angushta Matra Jivatma is Ishana, Paramatma, Bhutabhavyascha, and Jyoti Adhumakha. So these showed that this Jivatma, which is as if or as it were the size of the thumb, is actually the existence principle Sat, as well as the conscious principle Chit. And then we saw the contrast between Maranam and immortality, between Dvaita and Advaita Darshana. With this background, we will go to the present Valli. So this Valli starts with a beautiful stage-wise development of each of us seekers, from being in duality without any knowledge of Atma to going to a level where we can completely abide in the Atma as the singular reality. This happens in the initial 6 mantras or so. There is also the discussion how Atma alone lends life to this body-mind complex. So the Valli use Adhyaya, Vyatireka logic to show how when Atma is, life is, and when Atma is not, life is not. It also brings up this discussion that the same can also be applied to Prana. When Prana is, life is. When Prana is not, life is not. Therefore, is it not that the Prana is the cause for life? The Valli asks and then clarifies that Prana being part of the Sukshma Sharira is Jada. Atma blesses the Prana, therefore ultimately Atma alone lends life to body-mind complex. Then the Valli ends with Brahma Swarupa Lakshana. There are two promises which Yamadharma Raja makes here. He tells Nachiketas that he will tell the secret about the eternal Brahman. He also tells Nachiketas that he shall detail what happens to a Ajnani Jivatma. As a part of answering that promise, what is the secret of the eternal Brahman, we see Lord Yama saying that this eternal Brahma is of the nature of Purusha. He says that it is of the nature of consciousness, it is of the nature of existence. And then comes an interesting segment, not part of the verses today, but part of the Valli, which I was explaining earlier when we were reading about Samanya and Vishesha Chaitanya. This consciousness, which is all-pervading and which is eternal, when it obtains in each of us as body-mind complex, there are some confusions that arise. The first confusion is that this Paramatma is not located, but as Jivatma it appears located. Paramatma is one, but when it obtains in each one of us, it appears as multiple. Paramatma doesn't move, yet when we move, we think that the consciousness is moving. Paramatma doesn't have any karma. When we do, we think that we are doing the karma. Therefore, there are several confusions which are there because of the Paramatma obtaining as reflected consciousness in the Jivatma. So there are three Drishtantas, the Agni Drishtanta, Vayu Drishtanta and Surya Prakasha Drishtanta, which Lord Yama gives as a part of the Brahma Swarupa Varnanam. It is shown that Agni and Vayu are all pervading, but we come to believe that Agni is restricted to only a log of wood, which is the confusion here. And we come to believe that Vayu, which is all pervading, is a prana which is there within each of us separately. So with these examples, he shows what is the confusion that we have so that we can get over it. Similarly, Surya Prakasha is not sullied by whatever it touches. So is Atma. It is never sullied by whatever experiences, because Atma is asangatvam. So, with this introduction, we will see the verses which are there for today. And I invite the first speaker, Sandhya Madam, to present the second verse.
Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. This second mantra of the second Valli of the second Adhyaya, it's not an ordinary passage. It is believed to be from the Rigveda Samhita, and it is recited as a Veda mantra. So I request Dr. Divakar to recite it for us.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. The tongue twister mantra. Om Hamsa Shuchishadvasurantariksha-sad Hota Vedishadadithir Durona-sad Drishadvarasadrutas-sadhyo Vamasad Ajja Gojaruthajaha Adrijarutam Brahad.
Thank you, Dr. Divakar. So this verse emphasizes the Atmana Ekatva, the one all-pervading consciousness. It's a beautiful poetic verse. It's basically a prayer to the sun, incidentally a prayer to the description of Brahman. And it's so wonderful today that we begin with this as the first verse. Taking into context the fact that Sir suggested that we all experience this morning Gamana meditation, where we are able to see the Atman in everything around us. I think it's a beautiful, bringing into context that whole experience with this verse. So it's a prayer or a description of Brahman, the Absolute, which is manifest as the sun. Hamsa derives from the root Han, to destroy. It destroys darkness. A jnani is also called Hamsa because he destroys the internal darkness of Ajnana, like we know Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. This is the luminous sun of consciousness. Suchi Shat. This is the pure radiance dwelling in all of us. Vasuhu. Vasuhu is the spirit that is moving in the air and it blows everywhere. Vasuhu Vasayiti Sarvam Iti Vasu. It carries and spreads the fragrance. Many of us have experienced it this morning when we were walking beneath some really fragrant trees. Antariksha Sat. This is the vast expanse of space. Then Hota. This is the consciousness that appears as the performer of the sacrifice. Hota here is the fire or the Agni. Atma on the earth is in the form of Agni. Hota means Agni here, and it normally means one who is offering oblation. Vedisat is the consciousness that appears at the altar of sacrifice. Atithi, consciousness that appears as a guest that comes to our door. And Dronasat is that which appears as the vessels which holds the sanctified material that is used for sacrifice. So Atma is in the house as a guest, and Lord Yama is referring to all the sacred things that we will have to revere. Nrisat is the consciousness that appears as human sentiency. So Atma is there in every human being as sentiency. Varasat is that which appears, the same Atma which appears in the gods in heaven, just as in the human beings. And Ritasat is Atma in all the Vedic rituals, that is the consciousness, appearing as the rule and the law operating in the cosmos. Vyomasat is the Atma that's present in the pervading space. So Atma is there in all living forms. It's there in Abja. It is born in water. Anything that we see in water, the conch, the shellfish, insects, aquatic animals. Goja, which is born of earth, all the grains, plants, trees. Adrija, which is born of mountains, rivers, springs, rivulets, or sacrificial accessories. And Ritam Brihat. This is the greatest reality. What a wonderful statement this is, because this particular mantra is left nothing unsaid. Everywhere, everything is. And this is Brahman. Brahman, the Atman, is all-pervading. So to summarize, as a mover, the Atman dwells in heaven, as a pervader in interspace, as fire in the altar, as guest in the house. He dwells in man, he dwells in devas, dwells in truth, dwells in the Akash, and he's all that is born of water, earth, and mountains and rivers. So Dr. Sundar beautifully explained the first two Vallis are the evolution of our spirituality. Swami Paramatmananda explains this beautifully as the evolution of Jivatma Paramatma Aikyam, which the first two verses bring about. And the steps to understanding this is through the 4 stages that he mentions. Both verse 1 and 2 of this Adhyaya elucidate the stages through which the Jivatma Paramatma Aikyam happens. So, Atmanaha Deva Deha Vyatiraktaha. Atma and Atma Viveka happens in the first 2 stages. Through Shravanam and Mananam, we learn to distinguish that we are separate from the body-mind complex. Atma is separate from the body-mind complex. There is consciousness which is separate. Then we learn to identify with the consciousness, and then we say that I am Atma with an incidental body-mind consciousness, which I use only for transactional purposes. So Atma is the individual jiva. Then we see the next stage in this verse where Lord Yama says that the Jivatma pervades my body, it also pervades all other bodies, and it negates the Atma Bhavutvavada of other philosophies like Nyaya and Sankhya. So as always, we see the parallel with Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishads. And the Gita parallel is for the Atmana Deva Vyatirakta, we see in the 13th chapter, Kshetrajna Vibhaga Yoga, Idam Shariram Kaunteya, that verse. And for the Atmanaha Ekatvam of this verse, it is from Kshetrajnam Chapimam Vidhi Sarva Kshetreshu Bharata Kshetra Kshetrajnayor Jnanam Yatta Jnanam Matham Mama. Where Krishna says, O Arjuna, moreover know that Kshetrajna to be myself obtaining in all bodies. That knowledge which deals with Kshetram and Kshetrajna is the true knowledge, and that is what we see in this verse. So there is only one pervading consciousness, that is Atmanaha Ekatva. And we moved so beautifully from Ekarupa Upasana to Anekarupa Upasana and then to this Atmanaha Ekatva, where there is nothing other than me, Sarvatma Bhava. And this is the fourth stage and the essence of Vedantic teaching, that is Advaita. Hari Om, thank you.
Hari Om, Shri Guru Nirmal. Thank you, Dr. Sandhya. That was an excellent presentation and explanation. We know the way a blotting paper works. When it comes in contact with the liquid, it is almost instantaneous. But when it gets saturated, its absorption rate drops. After listening to the presentations thus far in all the Vallis and some of the excellent moderation also, I'm sure our minds also will be very saturated. So I thought I will recap what I feel was the important points in the verses that are presented. The first mantra, as Dr. Sandhya mentioned, is from Rig Veda. Swamiji, in fact, recommends all of us to memorize and repeat it every day as a japa. Through upasana, Shravanam, Mananam and Nididhyasanam, a seeker is taken up step by step from body-mind consciousness to knowing that he is pure consciousness within the body. One such stage is to understand that I, the Brahman, rests in this body. Mind you, this level is intended only to teach us that we are not the body, we are the consciousness only, to enliven it. That being so, it would be a mistake if we think that the self is limited to just my body or other bodies. Lord Yama in this mantra aims to prevent this error, presenting that there is only one all-pervading consciousness by listing out various things to establish that everything in the universe pervaded by the consciousness, that the self is present everywhere and in everyone. The Bhashyam says that the meditator is reminded that the self is the same in all beings and the self has no limits. It has absolutely no boundaries. The whole universe is dwelling place, not just my body. Swamiji makes an important observation. Atma is called Brihat, infinite, because it is everywhere. And joining this verse with the previous one, that is the first mantra, we conclude that Jivatma pervades everything, or points out that the Jivatma Paramatma Aikyam. This is achieved in 4 stages. Mantra 1 teaches the first 2 stages. The second mantra, which was just now explained, teaches the other 2 stages. In the mantra 2.21, the following 2 stages were established. Namely, the first stage is Atma Anatma Viveka, separating consciousness from the body mind. Second point, learn to shift the identification from body mind complex to consciousness and declare with conviction Aham Brahmasmi. In this mantra, the other 2 important stages explained are: I should know my relationship with matter, for I shall be maintaining duality or Dvaitam if I view the consciousness separate from matter. The fourth stage is the pinnacle, as Swamiji puts it, in Advaitam. It is the understanding that all the bodies are only the lower manifestation of our consciousness and not separate from it. Hence, I as Brahman am Jagat Karanam, and therefore I create this body and transact through it. This idea that I create the body and transact through it is extremely difficult to swallow. But Vedanta gives the dream analogy, which we are all aware of, that I not only create my body in the dream, I create other bodies also. The next verse to be presented, a question to be asked is it prana or apana that we mortals live? This is clarified by the Lord in Mantra 5 to be explained by Dr. Ashwini. Dr. Ashwini.
So the verse, the mantra goes like this. Na pranena na apanena martyo jivati kaschana itarenu tu jivanti yasmin neta upashritav. So it is neither by prana, going by the word meaning, nor by apana does any mortal live, but they live because of something else upon which these two depend. Etat vaitat. This is indeed that. Now, before understanding what exactly is a consciousness, where it is reflecting, etc., we will just touch upon the Tattvabodha part where the subtle body is explained. Now the subtle body is made up of our 10 organs or the 5 karmendriyas and 5 jnanendriyas, and then 5 panchamaha pranas, which are mere physiological functions. Along with it, of course, the mano, buddhi, ahankara. So that is consciousness, mind, intellect, or ego. Now this Panchamahaprana is very important here because it is, we have seen prana, apana, vyana, samana, udana. They are physiological functions which is keeping the body alive. Like Sundar sir already told, it is, that is why the question, when the body dies, all of us will tell prana hoitu. Prana is gone. Now when you say the prana is gone, why not link everything to prana? So once the prana is gone, everything is gone. But that is not the way. Please remember, these are the physiological functions because of which it is keeping the body alive. That's all. So if that is the case, why it is not? Because prana is not responsible for life, but Atma alone is. Now why? How are you experiencing this life? There is a difference between living and experiencing the life. How are you experiencing the pain or pleasure or anything? You are sitting here, you are experiencing something. We are all listening to so many things, we are experiencing. So this mere experience, or if you are identifying with the reflected consciousness, or if you are identifying with the original consciousness. Now yesterday we spoke about identifying with the original consciousness because then we will not feel any pain or pleasure. So here at least we'll have to understand that we have to experience that with the help of reflected consciousness. Now, so the life can only be experienced because of the presence of Atma. Prana only helps our body, mind, intellect to live it. Now we also every day we chant along with Venkatesh Prasad sir, the mantra 15.14. What is the second line? Prana, apana, samayukta. So there also Krishna is only taking the help, of prana and apana, exhalation and inhalation. For what? Digesting. As Krishna is fire of digestion, he is only taking the help. Similarly, here also we are only taking the help of prana and apana. Now I have just put few examples so that we understand it better. Now we have a house. There is a house for all of us. There are so many windows, ceilings, doors. etc. We are not part of it, but it is designed for us. It only functions because of us. Because of us, it is a home. It's not a house. Similarly, if you think or if you compare body, mind, memory, intellect as a house, windows, ceilings, etc., the Atma or the consciousness is the one which is making it function. Yeah, that's it. That is one thing. And the second thing here, the sunlight. Now, yesterday evening, Dr. Sachin was almost going to fall down, capturing the moon. Maybe exaggerated. But then, we all experience moonlight every day. Now, does moon illumine by itself? It doesn't. It has no source of light. The light it is getting is from the sun. Sun, if the moon is properly positioned, we are able to perceive the moonlight. Otherwise, we don't. So here, the sunlight is more or less like the original consciousness, which is everywhere. So, which is being illumined onto the moon. Similarly, the Atma or the consciousness reflects the consciousness onto the subtle body, which makes the body-mind complex work. So, that is how we work in the external world and also in our inner thoughts. Thank you, Sri Guru Maharaj.
It is a general or common belief that we are considered to have prana and are living if we are breathing. If breath stops, we say that prana is no more and the person is dead. Prana, though the most important one, it is but one component out of 17 components of the subtle body. Prana, being a product of the subtle elements, is quite inert by itself. This verse gives a clue to the question: when the body is negated, what remains? This points out to the existence of another factor beyond prana. It is wrong to consider that we are living because we are breathing. Truth is that we are living because of that something which is invisible to our senses, which is the cause behind the breathing. And it is on this that the prana and apana are dependent. If that something inside is not energizing this breathing process, there would be no life at all. Prana and apana are dependent on Atma for sentiency. The next mantra 12 shall be explained by Shamlaji. Shamlaji, please.
Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. In this 12th mantra, we will see only Atmadarshi has got real Sukham and real Shanti. Let us see the verse. Eko vashi sarva bhutantaratma ekam rupam bahuda yakkaroti tamatmastham yenu pashyanti dhiraha tesham sukham shashvatam netaresham. I have taken this tune from Swami Tejamananda's talk. Swami Paramarthananda says this is an important and complete mantra. The first line talks about Paramatma. The first two lines talk about Paramatma Swarupam. The third line talks about Jivatma Paramatma Aikyam, and the third line gives us the benefit of knowing this fact, that is Jnanaphalam. Thus it is a complete mantra. Swami Paramarthananda emphasized the last two lines of this mantra in his recent Shivaratri talk. What is the nature of Paramatma or Brahman? It is defined Ekaha. It is only one, like all pervading space without a second. That Paramatma is Vashi, the one under whose control countless cosmoses are there. Anantakoti Brahmanda Nayaka. This Paramatma is the controller of everything. This is one meaning.
Another control is Sarva Bhuta Antaratma, as the very inner essence of every living being. Controller means what? Because of it, everything is sustained. Because of it, everything exists. Consciousness is like the invisible thread behind the beads of mala. We are all like visible beads in this mala. It doesn't depend upon matter for its existence. Electricity exists without the bulb. And what does this consciousness do? Ekam Rupam, remaining in its own changeless, non-dual, indivisible nature. Bahuda Yak Karoti, it seemingly becomes many because of many bodies. Like a person surrounded by many mirrors. A person is one, yet reflections are many. Eko Vashi Sarva Bhutaktaratma, Ekam Rupam Bahuda Yak Karoti. Where can we find that wonderful consciousness? Swatantra Chaitanya. The teacher says, Tam Atmastham. That very all-pervading consciousness resides in your own body, is the experiencer of the body. We need not search for it because the searcher is the searcher. Your own self it is. And then teacher says, E dhiraha anupashyanti. Only some rare seekers recognize this fact. Dhiraha. Dhiraha means sadhana chatushtaya sampanna adhikarinaha, vivekinaha, prepared student who has sukshma buddhi alone will recognize that Brahman I am. And anupashyanti. Anupashyanti means what? Anu means after. After what? Acharya Agama Upadesham Anu. A prepared intellect is not sufficient. It should be assisted by Guru Shastra Upadesha. Anu also means continuously. Pashyanti, see. Once they see it, they see it. A question. What is the result or benefit by gaining this knowledge? Tesham Sukham Shashvatam. Only they experience eternal Sukham, permanent fulfillment, Purnatvam. Things arrive in life, I am full. Things go away in my life, I am full. Krishna compares this person to the ocean. Apurya manam achalam pratishtham samudra mapa pravishanti yadvat. Purnatvam remains forever because it is born out of wisdom. Yamadharmaraja says this knowledge is the only means of getting permanent fulfillment. Na itaresham. Itaresham means others. That sukham is not available for others who are ignorant, who have not got Upanishad, Pramana and Guru Shastra, Guru Upadesha. Shankaracharya says that blessed indeed are those who realize this truth. Shankara says for others they don't have sukham. Not even they don't have sukham, they don't have even the smell of sukham. Therefore, through the door of Jnana alone, Purnatvam is possible. Hari Om.
Thank you, Shamlaji, for a nice and detailed explanation. This mantra, as Shamlaji has explained, it is not only an important and complete mantra, but it is also a Mahavakya. Recapitulating the important points to remember in this mantra, the one and only eternal among the transient, Brahman is one without the second, the non-dual Atma, in all beings is the inner controller of all. Atma is the essence of every living being, like the invisible thread, as she explained, through the beads of a necklace. The bodies are the beads, some are emeralds, diamonds, sapphires, and some are fake. The consciousness amid the sentient, conscience amid the sentient. Consciousness is an independent entity and not dependent on matter for existence, but it requires matter for manifestation, as we have heard in the earlier presentations also. However, matter depends upon consciousness for existence. The next point is the one amid many who grants their desires. One form, it transforms into manifold forms. Atma is the inner essence of every living being, like the invisible thread through the beads of necklace. Next, to them who perceive him is blessed with eternal peace. In the discriminative ones who sees that the dwelling in the body, they enjoy everlasting happiness, but not to others. That is the ignorant. Atma that resides within our body is the experiencer of the body. We should not search for it, for if we do, we will find everything other than the Atma, because we are the searcher, because the searcher is the searched. Friends, a question. Does sadhana chatushtaya sampanna, a prepared mind, sufficient to know the truth? No. This is just like a dog looking at its own reflection in the mirror without recognizing itself. A sadhana chatushtaya sampanna still needs the assistance of Guru Shastra Upadesha. The discriminative seekers who are sadhana chatushtaya sampanna come to know that I am Brahman and that Paramatma is neither inside nor outside me, but it is me. With this knowledge that I am the limitless consciousness, one loses the fear of mortality, sense of limitation. He attains fulfillment. This Purnatvam remains forever because it is born out of wisdom. He is Jivan Mukta. The next 13th verse shall be presented by Arunaji. I request Arunaji to take over.
Hari Om. Continuing this verse 13, which is again very much like verse 12 which Shyamaji just presented. This is also a description of the nature or swarup of Paramatma. And again here, the first two lines describe the nature of Brahma, the third line describes the Aikyam, and the last one is the Phalam. Now, as Shiv Kumarji said, this is also a Mahavakya, because any statement which reveals the identity of Brahman is a Mahavakya. So this verse also delineates the Sat Chit Ananda. So let us look at this verse now. Nitya Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam Eko Bahuna Yo Vidadhati Kaman Tamatmastham Ye Anupashyanti Dhiraha Tesham Shantihi Shashvati Netaresham. So you can see the last two lines are identical to the previous verse. So Nityo Nityanam, Atma is the only permanent, unchanging, I wouldn't call it entity, but I think there is no other word. In everything, in the creation, amidst all things that change and are impermanent, anityam. Taking the example of the clay pot, the pot can be intact, as we have seen in Vani present one. It can be broken into pieces, and the pieces can be put together and kind of glued together also. But the form of the pot has changed. But what about the clay? This clay is the unchanging substratum material which remains the same, although the form of the pot has changed. Now this is a metaphor, Drishtanta, and it is because of this clay that all forms of the pot exist. Similarly, Ekaha, it is the one reality, we have heard this from yesterday, one reality that is unchanging, Nitya, and that is the original consciousness. It is the indwelling self, Sarvabhutantaratma, and this in a sense is Sat, the isness or the existent, Asthitva. This is Sat in Satchitananda. The next word, Chetanas Chetananam, is referring to the Chit principle. So for all conscious beings, Chetananam, this consciousness is Chetana, the substratum, that is consciousness of all beings. It is the one source of consciousness, Ekaha, which is the one because of which Bahuna, or the many forms, exist. Therefore, the Eka establishes Vidadhati, the many, Bahuna. This Eka also creates Kaman, that's what the verse says. Now, Kaman can be translated as desire. This is the literal translation. But in this context, Kaman means any mental activity. Desire is also a thought. And where do thoughts and desires arise? They arise in the mind and therefore in the consciousness or the Eka. So here we have the Chit principle of Satchidananda. The Taittiriya Upanishad has a Vakya, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. It explains Satya as Sat and Jnana as Chit. Now it's very important to note that Atman or Brahman does not possess qualities. It's not like the Atman Brahman has a little bit of Chetana, a little bit of Nitya and all. No. Nitya, Chetana, etc. are the Swarupa or the nature of Atma. It's the inherent nature. These are not qualities because qualities can change over time. But this inherent Swarupa never changes, which is why it's called Nitya and Chetana. The substratum, the original consciousness, just is. Is not to be described. So on to the third line, which is the meaning of, what is the meaning of Atmastham? As in the previous verse, it is referring to the space of the heart in the body. Now it is not literally the space of the heart in the body. It cannot refer to the physical heart because we say Atman is everywhere, right? But it refers to a notional or maybe even a poetic heart space. But it actually is the seat of all experience, the intellect, the place where everything is experienced. That is Atmastham. In fact, Bhagavan Shankara refers to this as Buddha. It is the core of existence. Therefore, those wise ones who have discovered the indwelling self, Anupashyanti, by looking into oneself, into one's mind and intellect, and discovering that they are indeed the Paramatma, the substratum of this world. Paramatma is not outside, it is me. And they, the Dhira, have come to this stage with the help of Guru, Shastra and Upadesh. This is repeating the previous verse which Shambhaji presented. With this knowledge alone does a person lose the feeling of being limited, and only such a person attains Purnatvam or fulfillment. The others who do not seek this Atmajnana can never attain Shashwati. What is Shashwati? Eternal peace and fulfillment. Sukham Shashwatam is not an experience of happiness because experiences come and go. This is Swarupa, this is the original consciousness, this is what it is. Netaresham, the others who do not have this self-knowledge cannot experience eternal peace. Therefore, the discriminative seeker breaks down the objectification orientation with the knowledge gained by Guru, Shastra, Upadesh, and only such a person attains permanent peace. Self-knowledge is the only means to get Purnatvam. Thank you, Hari Om.
Thank you, Arunaji, for a complete and nice explanation. As she just now mentioned, both the Mahavakyas are the mantras 12 and 13. Both convey similar ideas. In this mantra, he talks of finding permanent peace and fulfillment through self-knowledge. And for this, the Guru Shastra Upadesha is the only method and there is no other way. How do we understand peace? It's listed and it's quite simple. The more we manifest the Atman in our life, the more do we become blissful, powerful. Atman is same in all beings. If our reflecting medium, that is the mirror, is clean, it will reflect well. Lord Yama says, my dear Nachiketas, never can you find peace in this world which is torn asunder. Peace is to those who recognize the one Atman as present in their own self as the supreme enjoyer and not as the object of enjoyment. Therefore, know the knower, see the seer, understand the understander, says the Upanishad. This is possible only with Atma Sakshatkara or self-realization. And it is to them who have attained self-realization does this real peace belong. Next is also an important mantra, now mantra 50. It is a description of Satchidananda Atma. Lord Yama here answers Nachiketa's question of how to experience Brahmananda. Let us pay attention to Dr. Asha Naik. Dr. Asha Naik, please.
Om Gurubhyo Namah. Jai Gurudev. This mantra occurs in Mundaka Upanishad and very favorite of Swami Vivekananda, and also in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, verse 6. This mantra is a relevant answer as he said the question of Nachiketa, that how to experience Brahmananda. So let us understand Brahman and Anand. The essence of Brahman cannot be objectified by only instrument of knowledge, any instrument of knowledge. Brahman cannot be eliminated by anything. To convey this idea, the Upanishad uses the example of light. Light in Vedanta is that whose presence things are known. This example is given by Dr. Kinappa always by hand and light. So, next slide. The Upanishad mentions or points out that every sense organ can be compared to light because sense organ is that whose presence things are known. Therefore, here is a light in whose presence sounds are known. So, the air becomes light. Nose is a light whose presence smell is known. Tongue is a light whose presence taste are known. Any pramanam or instrument of knowledge is called light. And because in the presence of instrument of knowledge, the objects are known. Next slide. So, thus every word what we speak are form of a light called Shabda Pramanam, through which we come to know things. The Upanishad says there are so many light in the galaxy or world, which is mentioned in this mantra. Sun is a light, moon is light, stars are light, fire, Agni is a light, and Vidyut is light. Anything which can be known through the light, an instrument of knowledge, and known through the pramanam is called prameyam. Upanishad says Brahma is that which is not an object of knowledge and it is not prameyam at all. So it is Brahma Lakshanam Aprameyam. So Brahma is Sarva Pramana Agocharam. Next slide. Brahman. Brahman is not an object of knowledge. It is the very subject. It is very conscious being which objectifies everything but which can never be objectified. Which is experience of everything but can never experience. It is seer of everything but never seen. Unseen seer, unheard hearer, the smell smeller, the taster, untouchable toucher, and these are not our Upadeshik expressions. Next slide. So, in Brihadaranyaka it is said, Adrishto Drushta, Ashruto Shruta, Matimanto, Avijjate Vijata. So here, subject is never objectified. So Brahman is conscious principle. The illumined inert world, but it is not illumined by inert world. It illuminates matter, but never illuminated by matter. Knows the matter, but it is not known by matter. So the Brahma Lakshana is finally Chaitanya Swarupa Brahma. So Chitta Swarupa Brahma, Satyam Anantam Anandam. This is the meaning of the mantra. So we go to mantra, next slide. Na tatra suryo bhati, na chandra tarikam, namo vidyato bhanti, kutoyam agni, tvameva bhanti anubhati sarvam, tasya bhasa sarvamidam vibhati. Next slide is the meaning, and next slide the meaning of the mantra. So Brahmananda is a form of consciousness, is ever experienced by all in the form of I and the conscious principle. Brahman is self-evident and is the every experience. So now we go shloka's meaning. Na tatro surya bhati na chandra tarakam. So sunlight does not illuminate consciousness. Moonlight does not also illuminate consciousness. Na ema vidyato bhanti kutoyam agni. So the flash of light may illuminate entire earth, so but cannot illuminate this consciousness. So what about Kuto Agni, small Agni, nothing, you cannot talk about it at all. Vameva bhantam anubhati sarvam. So sarvam anubhati means everything in creation is known because of Tvameva bhanti, self-evident, self-proven, self-revealing. In Sanskrit it is told Swayam Prakasha, Swayam Jyoti, Swayam Siddha. Conscious itself is a proof of consciousness. Therefore, everything is known because of consciousness. Next slide. Tasya Bhasa. Because of the light of consciousness, idam sarvam vibhati. Every object is known because of the subject. Oh, you are Ananda, you need not accomplish Ananda. When I say Ananda, means you are Anand. When I say you are Anand, means you are not limited. You are not limited by body, thought, hatred, desire, or anything. Therefore, whole creation is resting in you and everything belongs to you. Hari Om.
Dhanyawada Ashaji for a very detailed and nice explanation. This important mantra is, as I mentioned, a description of Satchidananda Atma. Lord Yama says that Brahmananda, which is the substratum of all experiences, is never an object of experience, but it is the consciousness itself. It is the limitless Brahman, Ananta. Just as one light passes through a clear or colored or broken piece of glass and get reflected accordingly, the one reality can reveal itself in different ways. Matter, body, mind, earth, water, fire, air, ether, sun, moon, etc. are subtleties, varying in intensity of that one reality. Therefore, all lights come from that one light. To make another point clear, Swamiji gave the example of a camera. Just as a picture is possible only because of the camera. Everything in the creation is known only because of the self-evident, self-revealing consciousness. Hence, the only way one can accomplish Brahmananda is through wisdom. Wisdom that I am Brahmananda, the consciousness, the self-evident in every experience. Since I am that limitless or Ananta, I need not look for Ananda because I am Ananda. That brings us to the end of this session. Hari Om, Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha.